So I know we talk about not trusting the media. Wait till you hear what was just exposed in the list that ties back to the media. This is mind-blowing. It proves why we have not heard anything. We can blame it on the Trump administration, whatever. For the last 20 years, it's been known. There's a whistleblower that came out and stated, I worked for Epstein, and back in 2000, I gave all the information needed to take him down. And the FBI pushed it under the rug and ended up arresting me for stolen property. That shows that he had some big players, big influencers in his pocket. Wait till you see the people he had in his pocket. The companies he had in his pocket that controls 90% of the media. That's why nothing's been done. Wait till you see that story. Also, picture day. How many times have you or your child or your grandchild been in public school pictures for annuals, for special things? Wait till you hear why everybody's telling you that is a bad thing now, and why it's actually scary to see. Because why? The owner of the biggest and largest school picture taking company, and actually a lot of other picture taking companies that tie into a lot of big department stores that took your picture and took your children's picture, guess what? He's one of the biggest ties to the list, and the one that probably gave Epstein the most money. That's pretty weird when we know that there's trafficking going on, and all of a sudden they have pictures of your children. That's scary, isn't it? We're going to discuss that story. Also, we're going to hear from Marco Rubio. We talked about Rubio yesterday, but I want you to listen to what he said. He said something at this conference, actually probably one of the best speeches I've heard, but he said something that said, I'm not going to be the one to take care of the world anymore. And guess what? The UN was reeling. They had no money. They were supposed to go broke. Trump didn't want to refund them. Guess who did, though? Your Congress. Your Congress just gave all the money back to UN. So now they're up and strong again. It shows this global movement is not over because the people that's running your government, I'm not talking about the Trump administration, but all the people inside the Congress is wasting time and wasting your money. And then lastly, we're going to talk about what the Democrats are saying and how they're pushing for wealth tax. They're pushing against Christianity and traditional values, what that means for you. It is coming right out in front of you right now with AOC and Mamdani. Wait till you hear what they stated. And then we're going to talk about what Tucker Carlson said, because there is something, and there is some truth to this. We're worried about global things. Well, all of a sudden, why are we building up our military so much? It could be because we're setting up for war. Let's dive into all these stories, because once we see what's going on, it helps us be ready for what's coming. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. Again, you can follow me on Facebook, all the other social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, all those, Twitter. I share a lot all throughout the day, so please make sure you are following us on those platforms at Real Colby Mac or The Colby Mac, and you'll see a lot of our farm, a lot of our family, but also a lot of news that come out during the day to keep you always aware of what's going on. First, let's talk about the story dealing with the list and the ties to media, and also the biggest picture taking company, and why people are starting to get rid of their pictures and also not do annualized pictures anymore for school systems. First, let's go to that story. Leon Black. Leon Black is one of the biggest players in school pictures. Listen to this. It says, schools all over the U.S. are canceling picture day due to Leon Black, the co-founder of LifeTouch, being tied to the Epstein files. This is the same guy that paid Epstein around $145 million for legal and tax advice. Now, he's not a lawyer, but it was for tax advice, financial advice. Now, you paying your CPA that kind of money? Unbelievable. It says LifeTouch is one of the biggest school photography companies in America, shooting millions of students every year. Now listen to this. For each child, a photograph of detailed information is taken from the family. Child's name, age, and address. Did you know that? So when you signed up for that, you're signing all this stuff, all this information, because they got to get the pictures to you, remember? And you're basically giving one of the biggest and most dangerous alleged people that's paid a lot of money to a trafficking guy, your kid's age, picture, and location. That's some scary stuff right there. That's what's happening. So now all the schools are reeling because they're like, oh my gosh, what have we done? What are we going to do about all these annuals, about all these school pictures that we've been doing each and every year? Pay attention, because sometimes things are not what they seem. this kind of leads me to the next story dealing with media. You know, the school system's broken because the government pays for it. Media is broken because the people that are tied to this list are the ones involved with keeping it covered up. Why do I say that? This is a study, and this is done. I'm going to show you this graphic on screen. It says, the larger circle of like-minded friends are friends of Jeffrey, who owns 90% of the media. Some of the biggest players in these companies all had alleged ties to him. It said, don't kid yourself, these are levels that involved full, ginormous amounts of evilness in all their companies. The same media, you may have noticed, has worked overtime for decades to successfully convince and basically change your whole thought pattern on the way they think of the narrative, of LGBT alphabets, of what they can do to your children. Remember all the stories with Nickelodeon, Disney, and all that stuff? They're all tied into these companies. I want you to look at this graphic right here. This is mind-blowing. 90% of these companies have some kind of tie, alleged tie, to him. Now you tell me, between the school picture things, between this and all the other stuff that's coming out, remember, some of the, you know, you think about Limited, Abercrombie, all these are kids' clothing stores and you know, teen clothing stores. Every one of those have ties to Epstein. Everything around you is tied to evil. It's just now getting exposed. The question is, if, like all these congressmen say, well, if you hear this, you're gonna be scarred for life. I'm tired of, don't treat me like a flippin' baby. Don't act like this Congress is the father and mother and they keep this stuff from us because it's for our good. Bull. Expose the names, arrest the people, and let's get back to normalcy again. Why do we need to do that? I want you to listen to what this Canadian leader said, and also what AOC said, because this is, we are basically getting babysitted. We're basically getting babysitted by our leadership, or basically they're controlling us, or they're going to control us even more. I want you to listen to these two things. AOC talks about a wealth tax, and we're going to jump into that. That's exactly what California's trying to push, which is means the money you take in, the net money you take in for each month. So after you pay all the taxes you've paid, the state, FICA, Medicare, Social Security, and federal, all that stuff, everything that you've already paid, this wealth tax would be a seizure tax, meaning if you make more money that they want to take, and it's over a certain amount, even after your net taxes, they can come in and take more. That's what the Democrats are pushing for. Do you realize that? That is what they're pushing for in all these areas. It's happening in California. AOC said it. Ma'am Donnie said it. What they're doing is pushing to get control of your money. Now, let's talk about the moral and the values system. Like we've just lost with what we just exposed with the list and all, what was just uncovered. I want you to listen to what this Canadian leader just stated, because this is how it's coming. This is why we cannot get close to Canada. This is why we have to watch the Democrats, because the Democrats are buying into this policy. UK has already bought into it, France has already bought into it, and Australia has already bought into it. America's next, especially if we lose the midterms. So I want you to listen to this. It says, the Canadian Mounted Police now say that if you have traditional values, if you have morals that are considered conservative traditional values, this is a quote now, you are considered an extremist. So we have the Democrats, the liberals, the global elite that is now pushing for, if you are a traditional Christian or you're a conservative of some sort, and you're trying to keep people in this good way of living, traditional values, you're now considered an extremist. And then you'll have the other side saying, well, on top of that, we're going to tax you more because we believe that you've got too much freedom still and we need money to use for other things. So along with the waste, fraud, and abuse, along with all the dangers with this trafficking situation, government's not trying to fix it. They're trying to take more of your money and trying to take more of your control. Now, they're calling me an extremist because I'm a Christian conservative traditionalist that believes that the crap that they put in our food is bad. That believes that sometimes the meds are not actually going to be good for us because, like I said with my son, we've healed him with food, natural food. Not this garbage that the stores teach us. You know what's so amazing? RFK and the former FDA leader just came out and stated that, listen, the food system, which is owned only by around 7 to 10 companies on the food system, about 90% of the food is controlled by 7 to 10 companies. It says that the stuff that they're putting, those chemicals that they're putting on your food, are more addictive than any tobacco or nicotine that you can even think of. It says more than most drugs. The food system with these chemicals are meant to make you addicted to it. So we have a broken system. So you have people like in Canada and these police in Canada. These are police in Canada now. This is not some leftist group. This is the police in Canada, along with a representative here in America, along with the mayor of New York City, along with the governor of California, who all lean leftist Democrat, are all telling you they want to take more of your money and that you are an extremist if you have traditional Christian values. Now, I got to be honest with you. I don't want to turn the other way when I think about the list and the files. I don't want to turn the other way when I think about all the money we're wasting, all my tax dollars going. I don't want to turn the other way. I want to go back to normalcy. I want to go back to where this food is normal and that garbage that we're buying at Walmart goes away. I want to make sure that we're eating cow and not some chemically grown petri dish meat. So that I'm the extremist? I'm the one that's crazy? I don't think so. This was from 2000. This was shared by a whistleblower, and this kind of leads back to the whole situation with the Epsteins and files and how, again, we're ran by people who don't really want the best for America. They want the best for themselves, and they know about all this. They knew about all this danger. FDA knows about the dangers of the food. The political establishment, the media, all these people know about the dangers of Epstein. It all came out, but then, again, nothing will get done. I want you to listen to this. It shows that, again, the control is not about us and taking care of us. It's about manipulating us. Did you know this? Back in 2000, Jeffrey's house manager, Alfredo Rodriguez, made a list of the victims. He went to a lawyer with a list. He told them about all the shady stuff, all the trafficking, all the very bad things that he was doing. The lawyer contacted the FBI. The FBI set up a sting operation, and no one was arrested. Oh, wait. No, there was someone arrested. Rodriguez ended up in jail because he had stolen the data to prove his point of how this guy was doing this to women and to young adults and to minors. Think of all the people that were harmed during 2000 to 2025. Did you know there was a story done by Brian? Brian is the guy that has done a lot of extensive studies on Whitney Webb and this guy named, I think Nick Bryant's his name or whatever it may be, but he said what we learned is Epstein was just a small portion. He was a big fish. He said, but there's so much still going on. He said there's still so much of this still going on. He was just one piece of it. And when we start listening to that, and how the FBI knew it, all the biggest players knew it, the media knows it, but they're best friends with him. What will we ever really get to truth? And will we ever prosecute truth when it comes down to it with all this stuff? Broken food, broken education, and now the Democrats are wanting to take more. Traditional values, you're extremists. And now we see the fraud, we see the trafficking, we see all the sinister evil. We see all the sinister evil, and yet nothing is done. Here's a reason it's probably not getting done. So Trump, if you remember, he took a lot of money from the UN, canceled a lot of their money. So basically, the UN came out about a month ago and said they're in dire straits and probably going to be bankrupt. They don't have the money without the American money. And we pushed against it. You know, we had nothing to do for it. I mean, like, the Trump administration wanted to pull out of these bodies. That's why he was making this kind of a board of peace that he was working on just a few weeks ago. I want you to listen to what Secretary of State Marco Rubio said yesterday. It said, we are in America have no interest in really being polite or orderly and becoming caretakers of the West managed decline. Meaning he was calling all the European countries out and all the UN countries out saying, we're not going to be your babysitter anymore. We're not going to take care of you. We're not going to fund your stupidity anymore. Now, that's the Trump administration. Well, guess what Mike Johnson and John Thune did with this last stopgap bill that they just passed? They funded UN. So the reason I want to bring that up is this. No matter how good the Trump administration could be doing, no matter how much they really are helping in a lot of situations. He's not perfect. I understand that. Their administration is not perfect, but they're trying. Should they get better on the files and lists? Absolutely. I mean, no matter what it costs. But here's the thing. When you have your own Congress working against the president, see, I bet you didn't know that. I bet you didn't know that we defunded UN and we took their money. They were flailing and scared to death they were not going to make it. And then all of a sudden, the U.S. comes to their risk. The U.S. comes to their saving grace. Now, Marco Rubio is calling them out and saying, we're not going to do that anymore. But here's the proof of how sinister and evil the Congress is they still passed a bill to do it. Pay attention, because a lot of times we hear things and we want to blame the administration for it, and it's not the administration, it's Congress. It's all the other things that we're tied to. It's the media. It's all this other stuff. It's FDA. It's whatever it may be. Now, RFK is the leader of FDA, and he's still calling out these food companies, and yet nothing can be changed because it's too big. John McAfee said before he died, and John McAfee was one of those ones who was almost more conspiracy theorist than Alex Jones, but he said, what you don't realize is there's about 100, 150 people controlling the world, and you're not one of them. And no matter what president's in power, no matter what administration's in power, they have no say. They're just puppets. He said they may not even agree with the puppeteering. They may not actually, quote unquote, be the puppet. He said, but there's too much power around them that does, and they will never change any policies. So when you hear things like the Canadian police, and you hear what Zoran Mamdani's about taking your property, Canada about seizing your assets, and now AOC saying the same thing, that proves that whatever they want, it will happen, because we're not wise enough, we're not thoughtful enough, we're not willing to fight and be lions instead of sheep to stand up against it. And John McAfee was right. These people are leading us astray, and yet nothing is getting done about all the problems we just talked about so far in this video. Now to the last point. Kobe, I mean, we talked about the Fort Knox gold and no one's audited. You know, we talked about giving the $5,000 stimulus from the Doge. No one's talked about it anymore. We talked about Doge saving $2 trillion. Nobody's talked about it anymore. Because the news cycle keeps us going. You know what everybody's telling you right now? We're not going to forget the files and lists. We're not going to forget the prosecution. We're not going to forget the defraud in Minnesota. Yet Minnesota's still stealing a ton of money. Nothing's getting done about it. So you see how easy it is for us to get our mind off of it. This may be a play here. So you remember I told you that the Department of Defense has not passed an audit in 7 to 8 years, basically through several administrations. Again, way bigger than Pete Hegseth, way bigger than Trump. This is just a monster of a group of individuals. Well, their budget went up twice already since Trump's been president. I'm not saying it's Trump's fault. I'm not saying it's anything other than you need to know the knowledge of it. So we went from, you know, $700 billion budget to, it was $1 million, now it's $1.5 million. And we're also giving money all overseas dealing with wartime efforts. We stockpiled copper, which is a big thing. We've stockpiled ammunitions, which is a big thing. Don't you listen to what Tucker Carlson said. Now again, this is where I think I do agree with Tucker Carlson, because this is something shady showing up. And this is why I want to talk about last, because you know what? All this stuff should be making us very angry, and we should be mad, and we should not forget all of it. But just like we forgot Fort Knox, just like we forgot the Doge checks, just like we forgot all this other stuff, we'll forget it because propaganda, the media controls the narrative. I want you to listen to this. Tucker Carlson says, the U.S. is gearing up for a big war, and the Pentagon 2027 budget is actually boosted basically double, so it's $1.5 trillion. That's wartime budget, wartime money. And yet we say that we're not in a war. However, we're building our budgets, and our overseas play and our military is getting stronger and more elite, and more money is spent on these things. Why would we be doing that? Because it could be what the distraction will be coming, and the dangers of what could be coming at the end of the year or the first of next year, to get our mind off all this other stuff going on. And I told you a few weeks ago, and I'm still telling you, I think something big is going to take place. A black swan event's going to take place. A major war, a major civil unrest, something's going to take place, because they've got to distract you from this, especially when you start hearing the Bill Gates and the Reid Hoffmans and the Bill Clintons, all this tied to Epstein. Now, some of the Trump's administration too. Now, they've yet to prove that Elon or that Trump were actually on there. They've yet to prove that any of his main guys like J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, any of those had ties either. But they've proven a lot about a lot of big players. So to distract you from that, to get your mind off of it, sadly, I'm scared Tucker's right here, where there could be a war coming. Not because we need it, not because we want it, but it may be the distraction that the government needs to get your mind off the dangers of what's going on. We need to expose the waste, fraud, and abuse and arrest them. We need to expose the trafficking and arrest them. We need to bust every one of these people that were doing evil and arrest them. But yet, our mind will be off that very soon, and it'll be on something else, sadly. Because you remember that gold that we didn't audit? You remember that Doge check that you were supposed to get? You remember how we were going to cut all this money and all this funding, $2 trillion? You remember all that? It's just a figment of our imagination, isn't it? Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video. Comment below. Tell me your thoughts. I want to know what you think.